the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
4, 9, and 3 with my eyes before I'm just ready to just throw Bama in with the underdogs here. First up, though,
we saw 8-4 last year. You said you were right.
It felt like 8-4. Right? That was an 8-4 team if I've ever seen one. Why or why not? You knew I was going to start with the Tennessee Volunteers. Why, in your estimation, Matt Green, do you think that they have a realistic shot as being an SEC surprise CFP team? And why do you hesitate to throwing the Tennessee Volunteers in this year?
Well, if we start with the why, I mean, if you're telling me why did Tennessee make the playoff at the end of the season, you're going forward in time. I think the reason they would have made the playoff is one thing, and it's that Nico is a superstar. Like, I don't think there's any like beating around the bush. Like, I don't think Nico can come around and be a game manager and this team's going to play for anything. Like, you look at their schedule a year ago, like you got blown out by Missouri, blown out by Georgia, and the Florida game, maybe not a blowout, but kind of dominated by Florida too. Like, what changes in 2024 from 2023, right? Like, you lost a lot from that defense. Tennessee's definitely brought some in the portal, but you look at like what makes them better. Like, they might be better than Alabama next year because like we don't really know what they're going to be exactly. But I look at Tennessee, and if Nico is a superstar, like that's what it's going to take to get them to that level. And even in like as good as he can be, like, can he be better than like we know he can be better than Hendon Hooker, right? Like theoretically, but can he really produce better? Can Tennessee's offense be better than it was in 2021? Am I getting my
2022?
2022.
Can it be better than 2022?
Yeah, can it get better than that? I think if you have that offense with a competent defense, like maybe like last year's defense, that team could be a little bit better. So there's a balance that Tennessee can be better than that 2022 team, but it's hard to imagine, as good as Nico can be, it's hard to imagine that offense producing better than Hendon Hooker and that 2022 team did.
Well, here's something else that folks are gonna have to get used to. 2022 is the end of the numbers that you saw. Like the Tennessee average, I think 46 points a game. What didn't change with this year's new running clock was the time of the game. The time of the game itself didn't really take a hit because the ads were there and everything else. But what did was the number of plays. So scoring was down across the league this year. So I don't think Tennessee will ever score like they did 2 years ago ever again. But I do think there's going to be a middle ground because Tennessee was number one in college football in scoring in 2022. 2021, they are number 7. Part of that was no one knew what to do with Tennessee's offense the first 2 years. Like, it was just this new thing that Heupel was able to just feast on a lot of teams that just weren't prepared for what Heupel was throwing at them those first 2 years. And also, you had an NFL quarterback, you had NFL receivers, you had NFL starting right tackle, you had a lot of NFL dudes that really popped for Heupel, and it all came together in a great way. And those are few and far between. It's really hard to be the best offense in college football year over year. But I don't think they have to be number 1 in the country or even number 7 in scoring to make the playoff. I think they have to be better than 35th, which is where they were this past year, which is this was the most difficult, offense. It was just one of the most difficult seasons for Heupel offensively that we've ever seen from him. So I think it's hard for me to see even going 8-4 with a really, really up and down season, really tough, just offensive, just ebbs and flows to the year. You had Alabama on the ropes at the half, and that one hurt. The Florida game was really the only tough loss, though. When you really think about it, like Mizzou turned out to be a great team, and that's not a tough loss on the road. Yeah, you got boat race, but like Mizzou was one of the 3 best teams in the SEC this past year, so they were legit. They were a double-digit win team. Like they were really good. That's not a bad loss. Georgia, obviously not a bad loss. Like you would have preferred it to be closer, but it's not a bad loss. They were arguably the second best team in the country.
Top 10 teams.
Right. That's fine. The Florida loss was the one that like that one hurt, but the other 3, that's fine. And I think Tennessee fans would have been by and large, and I think they were okay with 8-4 this past year, because I think a lot of people saw like the drop off from Hendon and to what you lost to the draft and this, that, and the other, that it was going to be a step back. this year. But you see the pop, 35 points. The defense pops against Iowa. I understand it's Iowa's offense, but James Pierce is a top 10 pick. He might be a number 1 overall pick after this upcoming year just because of his talent on the edge. Like, that's a big thing. Tennessee should have a great pass rush this year. You're getting in 5-star Jordan Ross, who's going to rotate Caleb Herring, 4-star number 1 player out of Tennessee this past year. He sat and learned. He's going to be bigger and ready to rotate. So I think Tennessee is going to be loaded rotating at the Leo spot. I think they're going to be loaded at the defensive line spot. I think they're going to be a whole lot more athletic at corner. I think the offensive line, you get Cooper back, you get Spraggs back at right guard, you get the 5-star offensive tackle transfer from LSU, Lance Hurd, starting left tackle. You have John Campbell who'll move over to right.
We're going through the whole starting lineup here.
No. What I'm saying is, like, you need these little things from the outside can make or break a season. So, like, Nico getting a veteran offensive line and you being able to plug in a 5-star offensive tackle on his blind side, that's huge, because it was going to be Gerald Mincey a few weeks ago. So for them to upgrade that spot, to me, it just, the receivers are mostly back. You get in Chris Brazzell, who had a really successful season at Tulane. To me, all of this screams improvement. Like, they're not going to be a 35th best team in scoring offense again. They're going to be somewhere in the top 10 to 15. I don't know where, but I would bet on them being somewhere in there. And I think the defense is going to be better. I think they're still going to be really good at rushing the passer, which will help the secondary. And you got 8-4 last year, and it was tough week over week. I just don't see a way, like you said. Nico's not going to be a game manager. Nico, he has a lot of big Bryce Young tendencies already. He's got amazing pocket awareness. Like, it seems like things are going to go pretty well there. And if they go pretty well,
he's a first-year starter.
Sure. But if things go reasonably well, I see the floor being like 9-3 for this team, and 9-3, 10-2, you're going to be in the playoff conversation. And also, the schedule is really nice. The schedule for Tennessee this year is very nice.
That's one thing I was going to say, especially the home schedule. Like, I think it's reasonable that this team could go undefeated at home. And I mean,
they had lost one in 2 years before Georgia last year.
You have Alabama, Florida, Kentucky, and Mississippi State all at home. It's like, it's not a cakewalk by any means, but Alabama feels very gettable in 2024. So you do have to go on the road at Georgia, at Oklahoma, at Arkansas. So it's not going to be easy, but, you know, I don't think there's anyone out of conference that's going to beat this Tennessee team. Like, NC State's the only, like, power 4 team if we're doing that, right? So, you know, they're definitely I think they can safely say that they're a 12-team playoff contender going into next year.
I like it. Why or why not? This one might raise some eyebrows. Kentucky are a dark horse contender to make the CFP in 2024 for you, Matt Green.
Why Kentucky is because I think they have a veteran team, and you know, maybe Vandergriff, he is a former 5-star, comes in and like is a baller, but I mean,
nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.